There is a moment in combat that even the most battle-hardened soldiers will tell you about. A moment where everything stops, where the noise, the dust, the chaos of the battlefield just falls away, and what is left is something so precise, so coldly efficient, that the only response available to the human brain is silence. The US Marines, who were operating alongside British SAS personnel in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, had that moment. And what they said afterwards tells you everything you need to know about what elite truly means. Hi, my name is Arnold, and this is Delta Force Chronicles. Helmand Province, Afghanistan, the mid-2000s. To understand what happened, you first need to understand where it happened. Because Helmand is not just a province. It is not simply a dot on a map in southern Afghanistan. In the mid-2000s, Helmand Province was arguably the single most dangerous piece of real estate on the surface of the planet. Full stop. The Taliban had not simply retreated into Helmand after being driven from Kandahar and Kabul. They had dug in. They had recruited. They had turned the vast poppy fields, the narrow irrigation ditches, the crumbling mud compounds, and the labyrinthine alleyways of towns like Sangin, Musakala, and Nade Ali into a battlefield tailor-made for an insurgency that had been fighting foreign armies since before most of the soldiers sent to stop them were born. By 2006, British forces had taken over responsibility for Helmand as part of NATO's International Security Assistance Force. The then Defense Secretary John Reid famously and catastrophically suggested that British troops might complete their mission without firing a single shot. He was wrong. Within months, British soldiers were fighting some of the most intense close-quarters combat seen since the Korean War. Casualty rates were staggering. The fighting was relentless. Into this environment, the British military poured not just conventional forces, but its very best. The Special Air Service, SAS, was operating throughout Helmand and the wider Afghan theater, conducting what are known as deliberate operations, including high-value target missions, ambushes, and reconnaissance. This was the kind of work that rarely makes the official press releases, but that shapes the entire strategic picture of a conflict. And it was in this environment, in this crucible, that a group of United States Marines found themselves operating alongside men from Hereford. What they witnessed during one particular engagement would be talked about for years afterwards. Who are the SAS and what makes their snipers different? Now, before we get into the specifics of what happened, I want to take a moment to explain something. There is a tendency, particularly on the American side of the Atlantic, to view British Special Forces through a slightly romanticized lens. The beige beret, the quiet professionalism, the stiff upper lip. And whilst all of that is real, it somewhat undersells what the SAS actually is. The SAS selection process, which takes place primarily in the Brecon Beacons in Wales and the jungles of Belize, is not simply physically grueling. It is designed from the ground up to break people, not necessarily physically, though it will absolutely do that too, but psychologically. The infamous endurance phase, known as the fan dance and long drag, sees candidates navigate brutal mountainous terrain in all weather, carrying Bergen rucksacks weighing in excess of 55 pounds, navigating alone, against the clock, with no encouragement and no support. Roughly between 80 and 90% of candidates fail selection. Those are not good odds. But here is what separates the SAS sniper from a conventional military marksman, and this is important. A regular Army sniper, even a very good one, is trained to shoot. Distance, windage, elevation, trigger control. The mechanics of putting a round on target. All of that is essential, and all of it takes years to master. An SAS sniper does all of that, and then operates independently, or in a pair, deep behind enemy lines, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, without resupply, without support, making autonomous decisions about targeting, about movement, about survival. They are not simply a man with a rifle. They are an intelligence gatherer, a surveillance asset, a direct action capability, and a psychological weapon, all compressed into one extraordinarily capable individual. The SAS sniper cadre trains its operators to understand the battlefield at a level that goes far beyond what most soldiers ever experience. Wind reading at extreme range. The ability to construct a hide so effective that an enemy patrol can walk within feet of it and detect nothing. Patience that borders on the pathological. I mean, genuinely. These men will lie still in a hedge for 36 hours, waiting for a single shot. Most of us cannot sit still through a 2-hour film. These men are built differently, and it was one of these men, operating in Helmand, who stopped a group of United States Marines cold. The joint operation, how US Marines and SAS ended up together. Coalition warfare is a complicated business. It sounds straightforward on paper. Allied nations, shared objectives, combined operations. In practice, it is a constant negotiation between different command structures, different rules of engagement, different equipment, different communication systems, and frankly, different cultures. In Helmand, Task Force. Helmand brought British and American forces into the same operational space in ways that had not been seen since the Second World War. United States Marine Corps units, operating under the Regional Command Southwest structure, were conducting operations in areas that overlapped with British zones of responsibility. This created a working environment where joint patrols, shared intelligence, and combined operations were not unusual. They were routine. What was less routine was direct observation of SAS, deliberate operations by conventional forces. The SAS, like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 on the American side, operates in a compartmentalized bubble. Their missions are classified. Their methods are closely guarded. Their operators do not typically perform in front of an audience. But war is untidy. Operational boundaries blur. And on one particular day in Helmand, a Marine unit found itself positioned in close enough proximity to an ongoing SAS operation that they had a front row seat to something they had not been briefed on and were entirely unprepared for. The specific details of the location and the date remain appropriately vague in the accounts that have emerged, as you would expect. What has filtered through veterans' accounts, through the kind of conversations that happen at unit reunions and in the back rooms of bars near military bases, paints an extraordinarily vivid picture. The incident, what the Marines actually witnessed. The Marine unit had been tasked with securing a piece of ground while a wider operation was being coordinated in the surrounding area. Standard enough. They had been in country long enough to know the rhythm of Helmand. The way the heat sits on you like a physical weight by mid-morning. The way the silence before a contact has a particular quality to it. Thick and loaded, different from ordinary silence. These were experienced men. They had been in firefights. They had lost people. They were not easily impressed. At some point during the operation, it became clear to the Marine element that there was an SAS team working in the same general area. Again, not entirely unusual. What began to unfold over the following period, however, was something different. An SAS sniper pair had been inserted into a hide position, almost certainly well in advance of the wider operation, possibly the night before, possibly longer. This is standard SAS sniper doctrine. You do not arrive at your firing position and start shooting. You arrive early, you go to ground, you observe, you wait. You become part of the landscape. You learn the patterns of movement, the routines of the enemy, the specific rhythms of that particular piece of ground. The Taliban fighters operating in the area had a staging point, a compound from which they were coordinating movement of personnel and weapons. This was not a snap contact. This was a deliberate operation built on deliberate intelligence. The SAS pair had been watching this compound. The Marines, from their position, had partial observation of the surrounding area. What they could see, though they did not initially fully understand what they were observing, was an SAS sniper at work. The first engagement came at a range that caused an immediate, audible reaction from the Marine position. Accounts vary on the precise distance, but the figures that have circulated consistently place the shot at somewhere in the region of 1,200 to 1,400 meters. In the Afghan landscape, with its variable winds, its elevation changes, its heat shimmer rising off baked earth, a shot at that range against a moving target is not a shot that most people who have never trained at that level can fully conceptualize. The target dropped, clean, immediate, no follow-up required. The Marines, to their considerable credit, kept their noise discipline. But internally, the reaction was immediate. One Marine, a staff sergeant with multiple deployments, later described the moment by saying that he had seen good shooting before. He had seen very good shooting before. But what he had just watched was something that existed in a different category entirely. The second shot came minutes later. A second fighter emerged from the same compound, apparently unaware of what had just happened to his colleague, or perhaps unable to locate where the shot had come from. That says everything about the quality of the hide the SAS pair had constructed. At a range that again pushed well beyond what most conventional snipers are trained and equipped to engage, the second target was eliminated with the same quiet, almost administrative efficiency as the first, and then a third. By this point, the Marines were not simply observing, they were riveted. The staff sergeant said he looked at his men and saw the same expression on every face, a kind of stunned, concentrated disbelief. The look you get when something happens in front of you that you know is real, but that your brain is struggling to categorize. What made it more striking was what was not happening. There was no drama from the SAS position, no radio chatter they could hear, no movement, no indication of any kind that anything unusual was occurring. From the sniper's perspective, this was apparently just another morning at the office. I say this with complete sincerity. It is one of the most unsettling things about truly elite operators, the absence of visible effort. The debrief, what was actually said. Afterwards, during the kind of informal debrief that happens when combined elements link up following an operation, the Marines had the opportunity to interact with members of the SAS team. The SAS, it should be said, are not known for being forthcoming about their methods. They are not going to stand around giving a TED Talk on sniper technique. That is simply not who they are. But soldiers talk, especially when mutual respect has been established. What was established in that debrief was mutual respect of a very high order. The staff sergeant, by his own account, walked up to the SAS sniper, a man described as looking unremarkably ordinary, medium build, quiet. The kind of bloke you would walk past in a supermarket without a second glance. He said that he had been doing this job for 12 years and had never seen anything like what the sniper had just done out there. The SAS man's reported response was brief, characteristically understated, and entirely in keeping with the culture of the regiment. He shrugged, said that the conditions had been favorable, and then changed the subject, which is almost funnier than anything I could write. 1,200 meters, 3 targets, 0 drama, and the man's primary observation was that the wind was cooperative. Remarkable. Other Marines in the element were less restrained in their assessments. The words used in the accounts that have emerged include extraordinary, unreal, and at least one rather more colorful assessment that I will leave to your imagination, but which conveyed profound admiration. What struck the Marines collectively beyond the technical excellence of the shooting itself, was the totality of the performance. The hide, the patience, the sequencing of the engagement, the complete absence of wasted movement or wasted effort. Everything about what the SAS pair had done reflected a level of preparation, discipline, and skill that the Marines, themselves no strangers to high standards, recognized immediately as something exceptional. One Marine corpsman put it, perhaps, most simply. He said, "We thought we were good, and we are good, but those guys are something else." The SAS sniper's toolkit, what made the shot possible. Now let us talk briefly about the equipment and the methodology, because the human element is only part of the story. The primary sniper rifle used by the SAS in Afghanistan during this period was the Accuracy International L115A3, chambered in 338 Lapua Magnum. This is not a standard issue weapon. It is a precision instrument, built to tolerances that most factory rifles cannot approach, capable of consistent first-round hits at ranges that would have been considered impossible by military snipers even 2 decades earlier. In 2009, a British sniper by the name of Craig Harrison, a member of the Household Cavalry rather than the SAS, but trained to comparable standards, set a then world record for the longest confirmed kill in combat at 2,475 meters. 2,475 meters. That is over 1.5 miles. The shot was taken with the L115A3. The weapon is paired with Schmidt and Bender military specification optics, a day scope capable of magnification sufficient to read a car number plate at distances most people cannot even see the car. The complete system, rifle, optics, suppressor, bipod, represents perhaps the most capable long-range precision shooting platform ever fielded by a military force. But the equipment only works if the operator can read the conditions. Wind, which in Helmand can shift direction and speed within the space of a few hundred meters due to the terrain, is the primary variable at extreme range. A seemingly modest crosswind of 10 miles per hour can move around by several feet at 1,400 meters. Reading that wind, accounting for it, adjusting in real time, is a skill that takes years to develop and that separates a good sniper from a truly exceptional one. The SAS sniper that the Marines watched had clearly spent considerable time observing the wind conditions across his firing lane before the engagement began. This is the patience element. This is the part that does not look impressive from the outside, but that makes everything else possible. The quiet professionals. What this moment reveals about the SAS, there is a phrase that is used primarily in reference to U.S. Special Forces, the quiet professionals. But it applies equally, perhaps more naturally, to the SAS. Because the British military culture around Special Forces is one of almost aggressive anonymity, SAS operators do not write memoirs, at least not without considerable legal and institutional resistance. They do not appear on television. They do not seek recognition. What the Marines witnessed in Helmand that day was not a performance. It was not designed to impress. It was simply what these men do, executed to the standard they are trained and expected to execute to. The fact that it left a group of combat-experienced United States Marines momentarily speechless is not something the SAS operator in question would have considered particularly noteworthy. And that, perhaps more than the shooting itself, is the most revealing thing about the SAS. Their baseline is exceptional. What looks to the outside world like a remarkable individual feat is, to them, a Tuesday. The relationship forged between British and American Special Operations Forces in Afghanistan was one of the genuinely positive legacies of an extraordinarily difficult conflict. The mutual respect that developed between units like the SAS and American counterparts, including Delta, the Marines, and the Rangers, was built on exactly these kinds of moments. Moments where one group of professionals watched another group of professionals operate at the absolute limit of human capability and simply said, quietly, amongst themselves, "Those men are the real thing." Helmand took an enormous toll on every nation that sent its sons and daughters there. The British Army lost 454 personnel over the course of the campaign. The United States lost significantly more. The SAS lost operators whose names will not appear in any official casualty list because their service is classified even in death. What happened between those Marines and that SAS sniper pair on that particular day is a small story within an enormous and often tragic one. But it matters. It matters because it is a reminder that within the machinery of modern warfare, there are individuals operating at a level that most of us cannot fully comprehend. Men who have given years of their lives to the development of a single, devastatingly specific capability. Men who will lie in a ditch for 36 hours in the Helmand heat, alone, without complaint, waiting for the moment when everything they have trained for comes down to a single trigger pull. The US Marines who watched that morning did not need to say much. The looks on their faces said it, but what they did say, they meant completely. Those blokes can shoot. If you found this video worthwhile, please like and subscribe for more content. And as always, thank you for watching.